It's a bit disorientating.
You can squat and drive.
Today's the day.
Now what do I do?
Alright, it is start of a new week. It is Monday at about lunchtime. I have pulled out this morning the rear propeller shaft from the rearmost part of the C304. Now this uni joint, I can't show you quite yet because the paint is dry. That uni joint seems really sound, whereas the front one here towards this yoke, that was not feeling too good. It was quite sticky and there were a couple of quite like hard, difficult spots to turn it in. So I thought may as well, seeing as I've pulled it out and I'm going to clean it and get rid of all the gunk and stuff, may as well replace that uni. So I've ordered one from Tatanka, hopefully that'll arrive tomorrow. And I've also ordered a new one of these rubber bellows as well, which is like a boot. Goes over the drive shaft here. That has a rip in 2 places. So only a matter of time before that'll need to be replaced as well. So may as well do it while I've got it out. So propeller shaft's been all cleaned. It's been painted now, and this is actually a propeller shaft that can move forward and backwards. So as the vehicle articulates, that drive shaft can actually move back and forward, which is nice as the pinion angle of the rearmost diff changes, and the middle one, I guess. So that's quite cool. I don't know if all propeller shafts are like that, but that's pretty neat. So it's a well set up propeller shaft. It's got a Zerk fitting, which you can't quite see, maybe you can a little bit underneath, which you can pump grease in from this end here, and that pumps it down into the splines of the propeller shaft. And then each uni also had its own Zerk fitting as well, so I'm replacing them with ones that do have a Zerk. You can see it there, I've pulled it out. A Zerk fitting, if you're not too sure of, looks like that, which is like your universal point for pumping grease into a joint. So having serviceable uni joints and anything that moves and needs constant grease maintenance, it's really good to have a Zerk fitting there. So I'm happy that the uni joints already did. Anyway, propeller shaft's in really good shape. I've inspected the splines, they're all fine. Someone has attacked this yoke with a hammer, especially on the other side. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of filing in order to be able to get the caps back in of that uni joint, because they are not going to seat properly otherwise, and it's going to make my time pressing them back in really difficult. Anyway, so those will arrive from Tatanka tomorrow. Hopefully that paint will be dry and I can show you doing that tomorrow. I have just pulled out another reaction rod from this right side here, and I have now upgraded my arsenal, thanks to Ange, with a hole saw bit, which is a 51mm. That is going to go into here, and effectively it's going to chop that rubber right out. I'll do it from both sides. Fingers crossed this steel piece and the majority of the rubber will fall out, and that'll give me access to be able to hack at it with either a hacksaw or my Sawzall, my Ryobi Sawzall. But I'll do that tonight when I've got access to a vise. So I'll put it in the vise, hack it out, then I can press it out once I've punched it with the hammer and punch. And then, you know what, I'll be moving, so that's really good. So one reaction rod is already done. You can see here, so 2 new bushings. This is the one from here, and then we've got 4 more on that side. Now with these reaction rods, as far as I can tell, that's the only gleamingly obvious design flaw in the 6x6. Now they allow movement up and down, but they don't allow any movement side to side. So the movement side to side, which will happen when, for instance, if both these wheels drop into a hole, or vice versa, the other 2 wheels go up on a rock, there needs to be like a deflection, like there needs to be an angle of movement, and that should technically be taken up by something like a steering joint arm. A ball joint would be the way to go, but they have opted for a like a single plane movement, which is not ideal at all. So I'm actually changing to a softer bushing because these are incredibly hard. So what's happening is one can't move, so instead the bushing kind of takes a hiding, and as you can see, this one's all bulged out of its mind. So that one is well and truly ready to be replaced. But yeah, anyway, that's the only thing I can see that is a design flaw. Everything else on this suspension system looks so well designed. But that could be upgraded at a later date if it is a real issue with custom like steering ball joints, like steering arms, and then they would be able to move side to side. That would make this thing a real, just perfect, basically. Okay, I'll stop rambling. I'm sorry, I'll get back to it. I'm having a great time removing these.
Chris on coffee number 3. Oakley and I coming from road support. And we've got a lot of new subscribers recently, so thank you so much for everyone who's joined the channel. And I thought we were going to do a quick 60 seconds, no rambling introductions, just to let you know a bit more about us.
Impossible.
So, very quick, your name, your age, where you come from, and a random fact
your
about
social
you.
ID now. My name's Chris, I'm 37.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm 37, I'm a Kiwi. Before we started out on this adventure, traveling around Australia, then overseas, I was a personal trainer. And before that, IT. And yeah, that's me.
What's your random fact about yourself?
I just said personal trainer.
That's not a random fact.
Random fact. Ooh.
That nobody knows about you.
That no one knows.
That, yeah.
You start about you and I'll have a little think.
Alright. I'm Ange, I'm 32, I am French. I've been in Australia for almost 10 years. And a random fact about me is I do not shut cupboards and drawers, and that makes Chris very upset.
Random fact about me, I cannot make the voices in my head stop.
Oh, that's...
They just go, non-stop.
This little guy is Oakley. He's 13 months old now. He's born in New Zealand. Chris and I have been together for 7 years. And before we started YouTube, I was working in hospitality. I think that sums up pretty much who we are. Alright, back to work.
Okay. Oh, that's hot. Hot potato. Hey! Oh.
What is that? Don't pretend it's heavy, okay?
I wish it was. It'd be perfect. Still gonna get a gym membership. That is the front drive shaft, and I would be right up a creek if I didn't have that induction machine, because those bolts were in there and so rusted up that I had to like strip the threads just to get it off, helping with that heat. So perfect, now to inspect. So what we're after is a uni that is silky smooth, which this one is a bit gammy. So hard to say, but it's got a bit of restriction in its movement, which could be a lack of grease, or it could be the bearings, the needle bearings wearing. It's not bad, but it's not great. And this one, better. Much better. That was my scientific experiment to work out that maybe I'll replace both unis no matter what.
If you watched the Unimog build, you would remember that I was with Chris obviously every day. I was filming and I was much more invested in the build, and I must admit I missed that a little bit. So I'm doing currently all the editing, and I'm discovering some of the things at the same time as you almost. Like I'm just watching after the job was done and I'm like, oh my gosh, like this happened and I had no idea. So it's quite funny at the same time. I feel like I'm a subscriber as well of like Chris' show in the garage. But yeah, I do miss that. So I did ask Chris today if there was any job that I could do that he could just let me and delegate a little bit. Obviously it's a bit harder now with Oakley, but this playpen hopefully is fun. He's a bit of a needy boy, so he does need me a lot. So hopefully he can learn to play a bit more by himself and I can do a bit more tasks and be more hands-on, because I do not mind getting my hands dirty. So hopefully there will be some jobs. Right now I can't do much. I understand that this is very much like heavy duty mechanic, but I'm very excited for the rest of the build to be able to yeah, to get part of it and understand and know everything about my vehicle.
So I'm just pressing the uni joints out of the end of that drive shaft now. So kind of because I'm just winging everything for the first time and I don't have quite the right set of tools, it takes me quite a long time to do the first one, and then usually I'm a bit faster from the second one onwards. So I've just found I've found one socket here which is a good size to fit in to the uni joint cradle, and this is a bit of steel pipe that I found as well, and that's just enough space to give room for the uni to push down, the cap of the uni. So that's half of one done. I've already pulled the other end of the yoke off, and then I'll have this one to do as well. And then those unis from Tatanka should arrive tomorrow. Putting them in might be a little bit more difficult. We'll see how that goes. But I'll just show you pulling these off. And this is the part that is much less scientific. The cap is now as far out as I can get it with the press. Any further and it's bottomed out the actual uni joint itself. I've already pushed it through the other direction, so I know they can slide both ways relatively freely. But now I don't really know how to get the rest of the cap out. The cap's this big, so there's still a fair amount of cap to remove. So I've just been kind of hitting it with a hammer, tapping it, trying to like force it out as much as I can. And of course I'm not reusing these unis, so I'm not too fussed about bashing them. That usually shifts it, because you can't actually get behind it. Actually got it as soon as I stopped filming. So there's the cap. Needle bearings look pretty good actually. Probably being a bit pedantic by replacing it, but you know what, I've got it out, I may as well do it, right? And now this one should theoretically come out a little bit easier, or not. If in doubt, hit it with a hammer. Cool. Perfect. And there's one uni joint out. One to go. Come on, baby. Yes. Textbook. Okay, so this is the last brake line I've got to do for a while. I tried filming this to show you guys last night, but then the clamp for the brake line kit broke on me, so Ange had to go out today and buy another kit. Not ideal. So as you can tell already, I'm using the copper lines. They are popular in Europe, and that's what was on the TGB. But I'm replacing some of them because kind of at the fitting itself, they've corroded away and sort of just gotten all bunged up and gross. So yeah, I'm just keen to redo them, and then at least I'll know how to fix them if it ever happens while, you know, if I ever get a leak while on the road with Ange and Oaks. So I'll keep this kit, and then I can pull over the side of the road if I need to and re-flare some copper brake line, as long as I've got some spare line with me, which I'll make sure. So the kit is really basic. It's literally like 25 euros, so I can't expect too much, I guess, but it's a really painful process. As you can see, with all these little copper pieces, I have bunged up a lot of ends to it. Unfortunately, it's one of those things where doesn't seem to really be skill. A lot of it actually seems to be luck with this kit. There are better kits that you put in a vise with a press, but that was like 150 euro and not helpful for taking around with us in the TGB afterwards. Anyway, so it comes with a pipe cutter, comes with the clamp, which I'll show you soon, and it comes with this little piece here. So 3/16 is what I'm using in terms of the size. So I've just got a little bit sticking out of the piece here, which has been cut. When you cut it with this little pizza cutter thing, it kind of bends and mushrooms over the end, so you've got to file it off. So I'll just file that off now, and then I'll show you how to flare a new piece. Okay, so we've got a nice clean line now. Another thing I don't like about this kit as well, hopefully my head's not obscured. Another thing I don't like about this kit is that it's got serrated edges to this clamping piece, so it just kind of creates some burrs, which is not ideal really, but never mind. Okay, now we're ready for the next step. So I take this little button here, put that in the end of the copper line. I've put my fitting on the line as well. Can't forget that. I have a few times because you can't get it on once you've flared the end. So I've got that little button in there, and then I use this clamp which binds down onto it and mushrooms over within itself and creates a double lip seal. So that's what makes it quite a strong fitting. Then I remove the button after that and just use this vice clamp type thing to finish the rest of the job, and then ideally it's done, but often it ends up on an angle. Okay, remove the button, and now add this. Then I give that a crank. And fingers crossed, that's all there is to it. Relatively nice flare, so then I just need to clean these burrs up here, and then this fitting will snug up into it, and fingers crossed it doesn't leak, but we'll see. So I've done so far at least 8 lines, and I won't do any more. There are more brake lines in the system made out of this copper stuff, which is kind of further up in the engine bay and along the chassis rails, but I won't change it yet until the truck is registered and on the road, because then at least I'll know that these fittings aren't leaking by then, because I would hate to do the entire truck and it leaks everywhere. It would be a nightmare. So that's all there is to it. Hello, hello. I've had a bit of a slower morning today. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. Maybe it was I think I worked till like 9 last night, so maybe that was not the smartest because it might be catching up on me. Anyway, so this morning I've cleaned out that front drive shaft, so that is ready for painting. Waiting on the uni joints from Tatanka, they haven't arrived quite yet. And what we've got here is this, I think I told you about before, is the pivot point for the 2 rear axles. And there should be a needle roller bearing in here, I believe. So I want to, of course knowing me, I want to open it up and investigate. I have no idea what the quality of the bearings is like because I've never taken this thing off-road. So, I mean, as far as I can tell, the grease looks all good. I would say the bearings are fine, but I still want to investigate. Now, these springs won't be staying. I think I have sourced a pair of TGB 22 springs, which is the longer version of the 6x6. Is the C306 technically, I believe. So it's a little bit longer and it's got a larger ambulance body on the back, which is a bit wider than the C304 ambulance version. Anyway, they have a floating top parabolic spring, and I want that for the extra load carrying capability for the vehicle. So I'm not going to clean these springs up at all. They will probably be going to another good home somewhere else. All right, let's take this open and investigate. So with this, you're meant to use a special, what's called a hook spanner that connects into these dogs here, and that way you can turn it to twist it off. Now, I don't have anything like that available to me, and I don't want to buy a special tool because this is literally, as far as I'm aware, the only place I would use it on the vehicle. So I'm just using a punch, my trusty punch, and a hammer to basically turn it around, and that's worked fine. So I think I've got it pretty much finger loose, so I will set the GoPro up and kind of show you what that looks like inside as I discover it. I'll re-grease this, it's all pulling the old grease off. Okay. Some sort of nylon seal. Now what do I do? So for now, this has defeated me. So I really need to pull this entire unit off. It's called like basically the boggy axle cradle. So I need to pull that off, but the U-bolts that are holding the leaf springs in are completely rusted into this housing. So I've hit it with penetrating oil, I've hit it with the heat gun induction heater, not budging, and these lock nuts as well that hold this into place. That has all locked up as well, and there is also an axial clearance that I'll need to measure with the dial indicator gauge when I put everything back again. So it's of course going to be a bit more complicated than I thought it was. So I'll let that rust, like anti-rust multi-spray, sort of seep into those bolts, and hopefully that'll do the trick by morning. And she's done a special delivery. I have got 8 litres of 80W90 GL5 SAE oil for the diffs, the portals, and actually that'll go into the transfer case, but I won't be doing that yet. And a pump.
One Swedish-made pump.
That's not mine.
In order to get it into the portals more easy. Again, both from Biltma. And she's also got me some fuel hose, some 6mm fuel hose. and that is going to be for the vacuum hoses for the diffs. So I'll start doing that now while the other stuff seeps in. Maybe I can have a crack at that tomorrow. Yep, reaction rods. This has definitely become now my least favorite job of the build so far. This is the third one and I still have 3 more to go after this, but it just takes so long. So I've been down in the workshop hacksawing away at this after drilling it out earlier today. Just pressed the sleeve out, now I have to get the bushings in. Last night it was so hard to get the bushings into that second one that I ended up having to use the induction heater to expand the eye before I could actually press the bush in. So I haven't had to do that on the first one. Hopefully I won't on this one either. And what else is going on today? So I have filled up all 6 portals with new oil. I have filled up the front diff with new gear, with new oil as well. The middle diff with new oil. So each portal takes roughly 400 ml and the diffs themselves take 1.5 liters. So I only have the last one to do. That suction pump was a great buy, but it does require a heap of strength to be sucking it out of the bottle and then pushing into things. It's actually surprisingly tiring after doing that many of them. So I'll finish this off. I'm not going to have a late night tonight. As I said, I'm not feeling great. I've been ordered to not spend too long. So that seems to be working. The hammer and the multi-lubricant. Hopefully that'll be fine by tomorrow morning. So painting in the morning for the drive shafts. The uni joints will arrive tomorrow. So still lots of work cut out for me. Hey team, just got back from a nice little lunch break with Ange and Oaks. Finally got out of the compound, realised I hadn't been out in like a week and a half, so that was nice. I have just successfully done my first uni joint. So I pressed those in using 2 sockets. The new uni joints arrived from Tatanka this morning. And that's by far the easiest technical thing I've done on the build so far. I whipped that out in like 10 minutes at the most. That was in and all done. So the grease zerk is in and the 4 circlips are on as well. I also bought these Tatanka boots, so I will fit that first and then I will put the yoke together. Now these, when they were balanced, everything was put in line and in perfectly. So obviously you've got your little weights here to make sure it was in balance, but you might be able to see, I've painted over it, but you can still kind of see it. There's a little arrow here. So the arrow on this end of the shaft needs to match the arrow on this end of the shaft. The other one had 2 really obvious arrows that had been marked by whoever balanced the shaft. This one doesn't, so I looked for like 15 minutes just scouring it. I scrubbed it all down with the wire brush and couldn't find it, but luckily I took a photo of it before I took it off the truck. So I'm going to match exactly how it was when I removed it and hope that they got all the balancing right when they installed it. What I do know is that the zerk fittings on the uni joints should match, as well as the zerk joint on the yoke should all line up pretty much. So you've got this one will line up to this one, and then you've also got the zerk on top which will line up here. So that's apparently really important for the balancing. I removed so much grease off these things, it wouldn't even surprise me if the amount of like dried dirt and crud was actually throwing off the balance just the tiniest bit. I would have thought that you would have balanced out the zerks by putting one on the opposite side, but apparently not at all, at least not with these drive shafts. The zerk must be in the same place. What I will balance out though is on the rubber boot, we've got 2 new hose clamps which I just bought. Stainless hose clamps. I will have the screw part of those on opposing sides of each other because balance on a drive shaft really matters. A very small imbalance can not only send vibrations down the entire truck but also just make really annoying noises and also wear out the life of components. So another thing before I ramble too much, I finished the final diff with oil. So now all 6 portals and all 3 diffs are all topped up and perfect. And I also honed in the steering in a very amateurish way, but I tried to kind of line the steering wheel up, line everything back up to kind of how it was. Now, fortunately, having this many TGBs outside, I can actually go underneath and look at what they've all done. I noticed this one was a bit out of whack. The bolts have been put in strange positions. The biggest thing that I've noticed so far is that when I turn, so this is me turning the steering wheel to full lock, what was happening is these bolts here were fouling the leaf spring, and then same thing on the opposite. As I would lock out, these bolts would also foul on that leaf spring there. Oh, excuse me while I just turn the wheel. And what you'll see here is this dowel pin. The further it screws in towards the hub, that limits the amount of travel that the hub can do. Now I'm kind of looking at the others, and all of them seem to be a little bit further out, so aka stopping more travel than this one does. So I hazard to bet that the majority is going to be correct, because majority rules. So I'll probably button them out a little bit, because at the very worst case you bottom your steering out, or sorry, at the very least you bottom your steering out. At the very worst you start tearing things like the new CV boots, or smashing things to bits when you're turning. So I won't know until we've got the larger tyres on. I won't talk too much about that, but this is getting some bigger boy tyres. So yeah, we'll see. I know nothing about steering geometry, but I'm trying my hardest, and then I will probably get it professionally balanced. I don't think I'll try and balance it myself. All right, that's way too much rambling. I'll crack on. Front drive shaft all complete. Now this is that rear drive shaft. It's got the yoke here, uni joints ready to go in. Now these are the caps on the uni. You can see those needle bearings. And the needle bearings, from memory when I did my Jeep a very long time ago, they always want to fall out on the floor. So I'm adding a bit of bearing grease on and around the housing, the uni itself, and then I put the cap on, sort of sucks it into place. And the idea is that when I start moving them around and pressing them and getting them into the yoke, the needle bearings don't all fall on the ground and I lose them. If I lose one bearing, the uni joint's stuffed. So yeah, it's important. All right, now I'm going to go over to the press and try and make this work. Target. Oh, that big bang gave me a fright. Actually, I'll take you this way. So that's worked perfectly. I knew it was going to be difficult. That was actually easier than I was worried it would be. I had to use a multi-tool with a grinding stone bit on the end, and I had to grind the actual yoke housing out a little bit, because whoever last changed the uni joints, not me, absolutely bashed the hell out of the housing with a hammer and kind of made it a little bit out of round. So I had a hell of a time getting the uni joints out. So I knew I was going to have to hone that circle a little bit better in order to make sure it fit. But it's worked. Okay, now for the actual knuckle. Hey guys, a little bit dark in here, more than normal because it is raining outside. It's a bit of a grim day today. I have just pulled off the last drive shaft. One uni, this one here is perfect. That looks like it has been changed not too long ago at all. And one was pretty stuffed, so I've just pressed it out. The boot was completely toast. It was ripped at one end. So really glad I'm replacing that. Another reaction rod is in the rear, so now I only have 2 reaction rods left to go. I cannot wait for that to be done. What I've done today as well, I've also run the breather line. So each brake drum has its own breather that comes out of it. So 6 different breathers. I've wrapped those along the brake lines, making sure there's enough play with them for the droop of the actual axle. And then out of the axle itself, so coming from the diff, is another breather. And then you've also got, hopefully you can see in here, this here actuates the diff lock, and that has its own hose as well. So that uses vacuum that the truck builds up in order to basically move a diaphragm in order to engage the diff locks on all 6 of them. So you can either engage diff locks on the rear, or you can engage diff locks on the front, or both at the same time. I've had a look at all 3 diaphragms and they look like they're in pretty good condition. The very outside, which is out to the elements, is a little bit cracked, but inside, fine. So they've got a bit of oil in them, but I can't see anything wrong with them, so I've painted them all up. This is what the caps look like on them, like so. That's where the line goes from. All the hoses I just got from Biltema, so the ones for the vacuum lock are like an 8mm fuel hose, and the others are a 3mm vacuum hose. So they've all been run. When I have better access to the chassis, I'll be able to set up some T's and run everything complete when I redo the rest of the brake lines as well. So everything is ticking along. I'm pretty sure today Bjorn and I are going to move the TGB, so we're going to have to slap the tyres back on the old wheels, move it, take it into the main workshop, chuck it on a hoist, because we've got a big bleed process to do, which is apparently a massive pain in the butt on these vehicles to bleed everything, especially because the front drums have an upside down brake cylinder. So apparently very hard to get the fluid out of those, and sometimes at the top of the servo as well. So things are ticking along. I will sort that drive shaft out. One I've placed back in, and there's the front there. Got a slight issue. When I removed the bolts, they were so rusted up that they've kind of stripped the threads. So I need new bolts, so I need 24 new bolts in total, but they are what's called a UNF thread, which I think stands for something like United or Universal Fine Thread. It's basically lots and lots of threads as opposed to your normal like standard bolt, which has less threads per area of the bolt length. And I can't find anywhere in Malmö to get those. So I'll probably order those off Tatanka. I was hoping to get them today so I could slap both drive shafts on, but I can't. So this is what I'm talking about here. So that is a UNF thread, which you usually see on American and European vehicles, I guess, old vehicles, and usually just vehicles. You don't get those in any kind of construction industry as far as I'm aware. So they're proving a little bit hard to come by. They're also in the metric system as opposed to the imperial system. So they're a little bit different than what I'm used to dealing with. Okay, I'll stop rambling again and I will sort this drive shaft out, get it all cleaned up, fix that uni, put it all together, paint it, put the boot on, etc. And that one will be ready to rock.
You can hear me, Chris, right? Yeah. Good. I'll go. Very good. Very good.
Perfect. Yeah, you good?
Stop turning.
I can't see the back, but you're good here. Okay, I think now you can start turning. Nice.
So quiet in comparison to the other one. This is our new electric TGB.
Yeah, you good?
No go. I'm on hard turn.
Yeah, I'm like almost wanted to say go forward, but you can't.
It's a bit disorientating. Which way do I turn?
Yeah, not only you're like left-hand drive, but reverse as well. And
Ow. Oh, this is easy. I'm gonna get one of these. Got some fluid coming through. There's a little light here too. Yeah, so. Yep, good. Oh yeah, it's kind of milky. So cool seeing the big girl up on the hoist. How amazing is this lift? It's so cool. And it's got a secondary lift underneath for picking up certain parts. Oh man, so that was pretty full on yesterday. It all happened. So we haven't taken it for a drive because it has no drive shafts, as you can see. So we've basically vacuum bled the brakes. So we had some pressure pushing the brake fluid in through the reservoirs in the top, which I'll show you. And then we used this thing which created suction with the gun. Where is it? Here. On the bleed nipples on each wheel.
and that sucked the fluid in and ideally pushed the air out. So Bjorn was saying we'll still need to take it for a drive, test the brake pedal, then we'll need to bring it back on, readjust and stuff like that. So I need to have this thing ready to be under its own power by kind of the end of the day on Monday, I guess, because work commences Tuesday, so we need to get it out of here by then for customers. So I've got some work to do today. I've pulled off another one of the reaction rods, the lucky last two, which are kind of up on the center frame. They're a bit higher, they're in a different position. Now, in terms of the brakes, it all worked fine apart from this one here, this naughty little character here. The actual brake cylinder, they're made out of aluminium, and I must have cross-threaded it, and I hadn't threaded it properly, so it was leaking, well, it was gushing brake fluid, and fortunately Bjorn had a spare one of the exact same orientation, so we spent maybe 30 minutes to an hour pulling that out and putting the new one and then re-bleeding, and apart from that, none of my copper lines are leaking. Like, not one. So I'm really, really happy with that. In fact, I'm pretty impressed with myself. So I'm going to give myself a pat on the back, because I assumed every single one I would have to redo. And so far, it looks like I don't have to redo any of them. Okay, so reaction rod time. I'm not going to work too hard today. It's Easter Friday. And I just feel a bit flat. Hey guys, just a little interruption to let you know that Olight, who I mentioned last week, they're doing an up to a 35% off sale. I'll put the details to the dates of that sale down below. They have got some amazing products. We use the head torches all the time. I have that pretty much on my head all day long when I'm underneath the truck. They've got these great LED lamps. We have this on all night long, every night, as Oakley's little nightlight, because he doesn't like sleeping in pitch black, and that thing will last for weeks without a charge. And then also running their torches. I've got a really powerful one in Australia, and this one as well, which is also pretty awesome. So yeah, really good products. Stand by their stuff. The quality is really, really exceptional. So if you want to grab yourself some good discounts, just head on over there.
Good morning from nice and sunny Sweden. It is Easter long weekend and Chris is working again.
Happy Easter. I'm on my last reaction rod. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That would be a job that you're not gonna miss.
No, not at all. I cannot wait for this to be done.
One of my tasks this morning, a very important task, was to replenish the worker's snack box. So as you can see, it's got a selection of goodies. I'm trying to get him to get lots of fruits, not just the, the little snacks that are not so good for you. Also, I've picked up a few parcels on a local supermarket. It's got a little post shop area. And I took a clip a few days ago when I picked up a parcel, because it's quite something as well unique that I haven't seen in Australia. It's like this machine where you scan a QR code and it comes up like out of the bag. And it's like a robot giving you a parcel basically, which is pretty weird, but that's pretty convenient because you can just pick it up at any time. This morning I picked up my new mattress topper because I must admit the sleeping comfort in the motorhome isn't great. So Chris already has his one and that made a huge difference. So I'm looking forward to having mine as well. Alright, let it expand for 24 hours and tomorrow night I'm gonna sleep like a baby. Actually, that saying is a little bit false. If it's sleeping like Oakley, it's actually sleeping terribly. So I should probably not say that.
So this is a big old box of everything that I've replaced on the truck. A lot of junk. Check it all out. Bearings, all the boots, the brake parts. Weighs like 40 kilos. So I'm going to chuck that in the skip, but quite satisfying getting rid of all that stuff. And there is the final bloody reaction rod. I'm so happy that that is over now. So I'll just wait for that to drive and then button it back up into the truck, and then all of them are finally done. All drive shafts are complete, so I'll probably bolt those back on tomorrow, just with the old bolts, and then I'll be getting new bolts, hopefully arriving on Tuesday or Wednesday. So and then I'll have to kind of do them again. Not the end of the world. This is the drum for the handbrake, which comes off of the transfer case, and then this drive shaft bolts onto that. The handbrake shoes look fine. It's just had so much mud, so that truck has been in seriously deep mud. Like some proper wading, so everything's filthy in there. I will probably investigate the handbrake further when I actually drop the transfer case, because I'm going to drop the transfer case, degrease it all, paint it, and reseal the transfer case, because I will be keeping it. And that has then coming towards the end of doing the driveline components. I don't think I'll re-gear the diffs right now. I will at some point, but I think I want to put the diesel in first and then see how it drives to know what gearing I'm kind of after. I do know there's a TGB 11 which has a higher top end gearing, and I can also get gears maybe even from Malaysia, from Ashley 4x4, because the guys there make some really nice stuff, so I'd be keen to use them. But that will come a bit later on. So we might be very close then to A, getting the truck registered, yes, B, pulling the body off, which will be awesome, and C, potentially rebuilding this bad boy here. I need to be really careful rebuilding this trans. When I show you, you'll know why. I need a really clean environment, like a surgeon's desk. So I don't know too much. I might actually end up building it upstairs once all the fluid is out and it's nice and clean. I might build it up there, because any dust or contaminants that get into that gearbox is going to stuff it. So I need to be really careful.
Sir, do you have your driver's license to show, please? No comments? Oh, good technique.
You want to stand up?
It's a bit dangerous driving.
He's a bit short for the steering.
Oh, is that better? Because, yeah.
He can squat and drive. Good squat, buddy.
Boys and the toys.
This is Oak's truck. He's got the little 4x4.
So, a few days ago, I asked Chris if there was a job I could do. Today is the day. Ta-da! So this is a fuel tank of another TGB. The one is still on our truck. But the reason why I'm going to work on this one is to save time, so that we can just swap them, just give me something to do. So I'm going to just basically clean up very lightly. So if you can tell us in scientific terms exactly what I'm doing with this.
So that's a, I call it a paddle wheel, but it's like a flapper wheel, to take all the rust and the dirt off, mainly the rusty paint, and then degrease it with alcohol and then paint it.
You can see that's going to be a really hard job. No, I'm excited. It's not much, but you know, better than editing in the darkness while Oak cleanups, that's for sure.
And then you put your name on the new truck.
Exactly. Alright, I've got safety glasses. I'm gonna put my hair back. Safety first. Making sure the sleeves are up. We are ready to go.
Hey guys, it is Easter Sunday morning and I am in the main workshop working on the brakes again. So you'll see here, this is a new brake booster or brake booster servo. So there are two of these. I've already put one up in here. So one's up in there. So this plugs into the top of the B30 motor, and that gets vacuum from the engine and it goes through these two booster units before entering the master cylinder and the rest of brake lines. Before we came over here from Oz, I saw a few people on the forums have issues with the original ones of these filling up with fluid, and an expensive like replacement repair kit. So I ended up spending, I think it must have only been maybe about €100 more to buy two brand new ones from the Netherlands. So I went down that route anyway, and that was kind of like a preventative maintenance decision Hopefully I don't live to regret it at some point, because the ones I pulled out are called Lockheed. These ones are a different brand. They seem really good quality, and they're pretty much a direct replacement. From here, this goes up into an air filter above the engine bay, so if you're doing deep fording, it doesn't suck in a bunch of water into the booster circuit. So what I might do as well, which I'm starting to kind of work on, is replace some of these brake lines too. The servo came with about 1 meter of brake line each, so I've kind of got 2 up my sleeve, and then hopefully the rest of my copper stuff will maybe reach. We'll see how we go. So it looks like the brakes will have to be bled again tomorrow, but they kind of would have needed to be anyway, so I thought now was a really good time to do that booster change. And it's a pain in the butt working up in here, to be honest. Like, nothing really fits very well, but that's okay. Now, while the truck is on the hoist, I thought I may as well show you what's going on in the back here. So come with me, because this is a much better way to see things. So you'll see front diff, obviously drive shaft goes to the transfer case. This is the little transfer case here. There's a few oil leaks that I can see. So at some point, hopefully soon, I will pull the transfer case off and I will have a look at that. Here out the back of the transfer case is the handbrake drum kit. So see, it's really muddy, if you can kind of tell there. It's different in that it doesn't have a brake cylinder like the wheels do, a wheel cylinder. So this actuates the handbrake and pushes on these drums, on these shoes rather. And the shoes actually surprisingly look in pretty good nick, so I may just be able to, when I drop the transfer case, clean this all up and put it all back together. The springs look fine as well, so I might not have to spend any money on the handbrake system. From here, propeller shaft goes into the middle diff, and this is where the PTO is that I cleaned all up. And from under here, the PTO goes to the final drive to the rearmost diff. And then we can see a bit more clearly now all the reaction rods. So we've got 2 here kind of in the center. We've got 2 on the outside and 2 on this side as well. So that is finally over. I finished that last one today, so very happy with that. You'll see the copper lines. I've got the breathers as well, so breather coming out of the top of the axle, and then you've got the vacuum line as well coming out of the top of that diff lock actuator, and then I've got them running along the chassis rails. You can see the copper T's, they are original, but I cleaned them all up. And then you've got the soft brake line here, that connecting up, and then you've got the old line running over the chassis. And you'll see what I'm dealing with. Every time I work under here, I'm getting just covered in mud. It's disgusting under here. It's really, really dirty. Even though I gave it that monster clean when we first arrived, this stuff is not going to come off without like proper physical force. Now, it's all like some form of lagging. So it's a bit like your old school Raptor coat. I would like to know, with anyone who's worked with this stuff before, should I leave it on? But I'm not going to sandblast this as far as I can tell. I'm probably going to remove the body, but that would only be removed from this seam here. The cab will stay. And at this stage, the reason the cab will stay is that I'm worried if I start pulling all of these electrics out and unhooking everything, I'm going to have an absolute nest of problems that I may not be able to resolve in any reasonable amount of time. But the benefit of it would be I would have much better access. At least when the rearmost part of the long body is removed, I should be able to get the engine and transmission out and the new one in. So that shouldn't be too much of a problem. I foresee issues if I want to replace the radiator, because that's not got the best access up in here. And I would say that radiator is too small. Plus I'll be running a turbo, so I need to think of either an intercooler or an water to air intercooler kit. So yeah, there's a lot to think about. But yeah, please, without me rambling too much, if you've dealt with this lagging before, like if you've spent the time to remove it off a TGB,
What do you reckon it was worth the hassle? I don't like the look of it because it looks manky and old, but perhaps I should leave it because it is actually creating some sort of rust barrier. Anyway, let me know what you think, please.